guys, so today for my wrap up I have a little bit of a new setup. I know it's kind of darker this way and I don't know if I like it, but now you can see the other side of my room, I guess, because I just flipped where I used to film. So yeah, camera used to be over there, now it's over here. Today I'm going to be doing my March and April wrap up because I was away at school for March and most of April. But yeah, I read quite a few books throughout these 2 months, so let's just get to it. So the first book that I read in March was Peanut by A.N. Holiday and Paul Hope. This is a graphic novel that I got out of the library, and what's very different about this is it is in black and white except the main character's shirt is in red. So that's like the only good thing I can say about this graphic novel. I gave it 1 out of 5 stars. I didn't like the plot, I didn't think it went anywhere. And yeah, so basically it's about this girl that fakes a peanut allergy so that she can be more popular when she switches to a new school. That's just not my kind of book, I guess. Then I read Through the Woods by Emily Carroll, and I got this out of the library, but I don't have it with me. There were too many holds on it for me to get it to show you. But I gave this book 3 out of 5 stars. I was expecting it to be a lot better than it was. It is a collection of 5 short stories, and they're just kind of horror stories. I enjoyed some more than others, but overall it just ended up being a 3-star. So after that I read The Undertaking of Lily Chen by Danica Novgorodoff. As you'll notice, I did read a lot of graphic novels in March because even though I was home for spring break, I was still working, so I didn't have that much time. But I gave this one 3 out of 5 stars. It was okay. It was very different than what I expected it to be. And the premise is kind of strange, but it is about this boy whose brother dies and it's kind of his fault. So it is now his job to find his dead brother a bride because he can't be buried alone. So yeah. Then I read Nothing Can Possibly Go Wrong by Prudence Chen and Faith Erin Hicks. I read Friends with Boys by Faith Erin Hicks and I really enjoyed it, but I think I actually enjoyed this one more. This one is just about a bunch of high schoolers and their lives kind of intertwine, but yeah, so they kind of join this robotics club and it's just them building the robot, and yeah, but the guy that joins is like this big athlete, so it's kind of looked down upon that he's like with the nerds. So yeah, it was pretty good. I found it funny and I believe I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. Then I finally picked up Dark Eden by Patrick Carmen. It is about 7 strangers who go to this almost like rehabilitation camp because they all have their own fears, and at this camp they find a way to treat them with this cure that gets rid of their fear. But there are side effects and they don't know what's going on and what the real purpose of it is. But yeah, it was really good. It was really action-packed and fast-paced, so I gave it 5 out of 5 stars. Then I read both Boxers and Saints by Gene Luen Yang. I've read many of his other graphic novels, including Level Up and American Born Chinese. I enjoyed Saints more than Boxers, and it was a lot shorter, but I just found the plot more interesting. And yeah, so I gave this one 3 out of 5 stars, this one 4 out of 5 stars. And it's kind of hard to explain, but it was good. It was kind of weird, but it was good. And then I read Seconds by Brian Lee O'Malley, which was a graphic novel I'd been wanting to read for a long time, and I only bought recently, I think within this year. But I enjoyed this one a lot more than I enjoyed the Scott Pilgrim series. Even though they were set in like Toronto and I knew where they would be, I just didn't find the comedy was, I guess, what I was into, so I didn't find it all that funny, and that's kind of what the graphic novels are for. But yeah, this one I really enjoyed. I gave it 4 out of 5 stars, and it is about this girl, young woman, who owns this restaurant called Seconds, and it's kind of a haunted restaurant, and she lives above it, and she opens this dresser and finds this mushroom, and every time she eats one she can like reverse time and make changes and see how it affects her life. By this point I was back at school, but for the flight home back to school, I guess, kind of home, my second home, I read Eve of Destruction by Patrick Carmen. This is the sequel to Dark Eden and the conclusion. I believe it's only a duology. The way it ended, it tells me it's a duology. But yeah, this one was a lot shorter, but very quick to read. It was very different. I would have been happy if Dark Eden was a standalone, but with this one you learned a lot more about the characters and why they did what they did. So it was interesting in that aspect. There is romance, but it's not heavy on the romance. So yeah, they're just young kids, so it was kind of fun, and I really enjoyed the series. I'm glad I finally picked it up. So then the last book that I read in March was Never Never by Colleen Hoover and Taryn Fisher, I believe. I love Colleen Hoover's books. I've only read a couple of them, but this one was fantastic. I stayed up all night reading it on my phone while my roommate was asleep. So this is kind of like a romance, but the two main characters don't remember who they are and their relationship with each other. So it kind of goes on from there, things come up, and it was just so good. Words can't explain how good Colleen Hoover's books are. If you haven't read any yet, I recommend you pick one up. So the first book that I read in April was Playlist for the Dead by Michelle Falkoff? I don't remember. I did used to own a copy of this book, but after I read it at school, I didn't like it. I didn't like the way it ended. I didn't like the way they dealt with the problem, so I didn't want to look at it anymore. So now I no longer have a copy. I gave this book 2 out of 5 stars. It started off so strong, but by the middle and the end, it just took a totally different direction that I wasn't expecting, and it's like the author was just kind of writing it and decided that would be better, but she didn't go back and fix the beginning to make it flow. So this book was about a guy, can't remember his name, and his friend Hayden, and his friend commits suicide. He finds his body the next day, and they had a fight the night before, so his friend leaves him this playlist of songs saying, if you listen to this playlist, like, you'll understand, blah blah blah. And at the beginning of each chapter they had the songs from the playlist, so I would listen to each one as I reached the chapter, and it really got me in the mindset that it took to read those chapters, because it kind of like predicted what would happen in the chapter, I guess. It fit very well, and then this girl comes into the picture, and that's all the story is about. I don't feel like I understand why he did what he did. I don't feel like I understand anything of what happened except the relationship that developed between the two characters. And as somebody that cares a lot about mental issues, I am not satisfied with that at all. So I feel like she just kind of took the idea of a friend committing suicide and just twisted it into the relationship with his friend. So all I have to say about that, probably closer to like 1.5 stars, but I'll give it 2 just to be generous. Then for I think 10 cents on Amazon, I read the ebook of The Little Mermaid by Hans Christian Andersen. The Little Mermaid is one of my favorite Disney movies, and I didn't know it was a short story, and it is so different from the Disney movie. I can't even explain it because it is such a short book. It was only like 40-50 pages, but Disney almost just took the idea of a mermaid falling in love with the idea of being a human, and that was it. All of the details in between were so different, but I loved it. I love how different it was, and I love the story, and I love that Disney takes it as the happily ever after, but then you have the real story where it's not. So yeah, I just love it. I love being able to read classics and then watching different adaptations for it. I'm doing that with Alice in Wonderland, which I will talk about soon. So yeah, 4 out of 5 stars. So then I read Damaged by Kathy Glass. This is the first book that I read by this author, and I believe the first book she published. I was in chapters with my roommate one day, and she started picking up like 3 of this woman's books, and I'd never heard of her. So of course I asked about her, even though I already had 3 books in my hand. And Kathy Glass is a pen name, but she is a foster mother, and her stories describe the lives of the children that come in and out of her house or her home. And this one is about Jody, and Jody is a 7, she becomes 8 in the book, year old, and the things that this poor child has been through brought me to tears. And the way that her caretakers, like her social worker, were dealing with it kind of reinforced the idea in my head of why I want to go into social work and psychology and psychiatry and all that. So it was so good though, even though it was heartbreaking. I gave it 5 out of 5 stars, and I can't wait to read more of her books. Then, because online I found a list of 50 books to read before you die, and I'd only read 8 or 9 of them. I think I talked about this in a different video, but I made it my mission to complete that list by the time I graduate university. So for every book that I read on that list, I will treat myself to a very pretty edition of it. So I read The Wind in the Willows by Kenneth Grahame, and I got the Puffin Classics edition from Chapters. I have a couple other books in this edition, so now they're starting to match. But I just read this as an ebook for free, and I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. It was pretty enjoyable. It was not what I expected it to be at all. It is told from the perspective of animals, and it is a middle grade book, but since it's a classic that was written long ago, the English, and I believe it's British, so I did have to kind of go along with my cliff notes every now and again after I finished the chapter just to make sure I understood everything that happened. So yeah, it was good. It was very interesting, but there were a few life lessons in there, as many middle grade classics do. So yeah, glad I can say I conquered this one. And then, like I said, I read Alice in Wonderland by Lewis Carroll. This is the Penguin Classic Edition that has the ribbon bookmark and the pretty spine. And yeah, so I do have a couple of books in this edition as well, but this one also includes Through the Looking Glass, which I have not read yet, but I want to. So after reading this, I did watch the original Disney movie, which was very different, and I plan on watching the Tim Burton adaptation soon as well and doing a mass 3-way review of it. So the novel itself is very strange. It is like a very bad acid trip, but it's just quirky. It's very whimsical, and it's Wonderland, so there's not really much I can say about that. I give it 4 out of 5 stars. Then, just the other day, in the same day, I read Sisters by Raina Telgamer. I read this one while on my lunch break from work, and then when I came home, I read In Real Life by Cory Doctorow and Jen Wang. Unfortunately, I gave both of these 2 out of 5 stars. I was not a fan of either of them, even though I enjoyed Drama and Smile by this author. Sisters, I feel like, didn't have any plot, didn't have any character development. They just sit on a road trip kind of across a few states, and it's just them sitting in the car talking. So I didn't find it that interesting. And with In Real Life, I feel like I didn't really understand. Again, there was a lot of, or lack thereof, of character development. And I understand the gaming world pretty well. I do have a younger brother who enjoys this concept, but I just didn't like the way it was done and portrayed. So yeah. Then I read School Spirits by Rachel Hawkins. I started this book before I left university, but then I got busy driving home, getting back into work, so I only finished this recently, but I did really enjoy it. I didn't enjoy it as much as the Hex Hall series. I did give it 4 out of 5 stars, but the characters were kind of quirky, and I do enjoy paranormal more than mythical or fantasy creatures. Like, I don't know, like I enjoy ghosts more than I enjoy like werewolves and vampires and stuff, but I think I just grew more of an attachment to the Hex Hall characters, and I just enjoyed them more. So on Goodreads it does say this is going to be a series, but this book came out in 2013, so we'll see what happens when it comes to a series, but I'm pretty happy with just the standalone. And then last but not least, I read Legend, the graphic novel. I just didn't want to reread Legend, so I got the graphic novel before I could read Prodigy. The graphic novel was okay. I gave it 3 out of 5 stars. It did draw from the main points of the book, but I don't know, if I hadn't read the novel and I just wanted to read the graphic novel, I probably would have hated the graphic novel because nothing really happens. It just kind of showed me, I guess, how well written Legend was, because so much happened and I didn't realize so much had happened. So that is it for my March and April wrap up. I will show you what I'm currently reading in my TBR that will be up within a day or so. But yeah, I feel like this video was long enough, but I did have so many books to talk about. So thank you for bearing with me. If you read any of the books that I talked about, make sure you let me know down below. And let me know what you read this past 2 months because it's been so long since I've been around. So thank you for your patience while I was away at university. I am back until September 10th. So yeah, hopefully I'll have lots of videos to post. Thank you guys for watching and I'll see you soon. Bye!